Matthew, what would happen if all the white people disappeared? What would happen if all the... I'm not talking about the fake white people.
I don't know
the
difference.
Judeo-communists.
Okay.
I'm talking about real, waspy...
Wait, I thought they were white.
Real, waspy.
Really
Anglo-Saxon, Germanic, Swiss, Swede, like those type of white people. If
Ashkenazi?
No.
Okay.
So you're saying no more pumpkin spice lattes?
I'm saying if...
I enjoy a pumpkin
Here's the
spice
thought
latte
experiment.
from time to time.
Follow with me. Here's the thought experiment. What would happen if suddenly all the white people disappeared? What would happen to the world, Matt? What would happen to the world?
Everyone would be Chinese.
If we look at history's past, it is the Eurasian species that are able to industrialize and create societies. Chinese, Eurasian. They created a culture and that's lived longer than any other, right? You look at the Anglos and the Aryans from the Germanic areas and the British areas, right? They created industry. But you go to Africa, you go to India, they didn't create industry. So there's it's some would say it's a racial disparity. I think you're looking at the wrong side of the coin. I think you need to look down a level deeper. It's a species differential.
I think
It's a species issue, not a racial issue. It's a species issue. That's the psyop. The psyop is we were born and going through biology in 6th, 7th, 8th grade that there's one human species. How come there's one human species, but for every other species in the world, there's a multiplicity? Don't bullshit me. There's multiple species of rat, multiple species of snake, multiple species of dog, cat, tiger, like lemur, ostrich, but there's only one human species. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. There's multiple species of humans, and different species of humans are industrious. Some species are stupid. Some species like to, just dance around and shake that ass. Like, there are certain species that have certain dispositions, and that's just the nature of how God made it. So let me get back to your question. Should your daughter marry Korean? Yes, for the sake of her species, not a race. Her species. Do you want to dilute your bloodline and your species, Matt?
Interesting. I think because people that don't know, Europe and Asia are actually one continent. It's one landmass.
Yeah.
The difference is if you're white or you're not white. That's the difference between Europe and Asia, right? It's one landmass. So it's not a geographic thing at all.
And most of Russia looks like us, by the way.
Which is why those North Korean and Russian that were in Ukraine, they're actually Russian.
I remember telling this to someone like 2 decades ago. I remember it's clear as day. We were talking about Russia. It was something probably in the news. And I was like, did you know that 80% of Russians look like me? And this woman turned to me and she was like, no way. It's like, you're so ignorant, dude. Most of Russia looks like us. They have slanted eyes. They have darker, tanner skin, peach skin. Right? It's just the way it is.
I think that Europeans have a history of, especially within the leadership monarchies, marrying other countries within each other, and they've normalized that idea so that therefore Europe is like French aren't really French because French marry the Spanish marries the English. Like, this is a thing.
You didn't answer my question though. What would happen if all the white men disappeared?
I have no idea.
The world would collapse. The
A lot
world
of
would
poo-filling.
The world would collapse, and the industrious Asians would take over. That's what happened. That's what would happen. And people are gonna say, oh, I already know what people are gonna. There are gonna be lots of poo-flinging on this episode because of what I'm saying, but the patterns are real, bro.
SAR.
The patterns are real, and I'm not diminishing other species. I am saying that different species of human have different dispositions, skills, advantages, and cognitive capabilities than other species, like every other animal. You remember in middle school, kingdom, phylum, genus, right? You remember all that? No, you don't, because you went to school and you partied your ass off. I remember that shit.
Public school.
right? Like we learned about the taxonomy of differentials in species, but yet we were sold this bill of goods in high school, and I remember that it said there's only one species, the human species.
okay.
That's bullshit.
You said that the world fall apart, and I disagree adamantly.
Why?
Because I think that, for example, Africa would just be Africa, that they would live the way that they prefer to live. I think we assume that the world all wants industrialization, but some countries and some nations, some people have chosen specifically not to embrace it. It's this idea that you have to be industrialized, you have to be modernized, you have to let technology into every aspect of your life, which is adamantly not true.
Fair. So let me qualify. The industrial nations of today, the first world countries of today, would immediately collapse if the white man, the waspy Anglo-Saxon, Aryan, true blood, if they were all to disappear, the industrial nations would be destroyed. The Asian, Eurasian
And
species would take over. That's
if
what
the
would happen.
industrialized countries did not import more people, they would fail on their own anyway.
Well, we had this argument. The industrialized nations are not importing doctors, lawyers, and spacemen.
They're just importing bodies
They're
because
importing.
they need them.
They're
And the non-industrialized countries are the places that have people to spare.
yes, they do. They do have plenty to spare.
So industrialized countries actually cannot survive on their own because they don't have the people to do so.
Well, we're heading there. I mean, we're on that trajectory.
Like, what would happen to Europe if they did not import people from Africa?
We're seeing that now, like in England and Germany and
They
France.
would just cease to exist.
They are ceasing to exist before our very
What would
eyes.
happen to the United States if they didn't import more South Americans?
I mean, that's where we're headed.
North Korea, United States would cease to exist.
It would.
Yeah.
And so here's the question: Does America need a common thread, a shared understanding? Does America need a cultural glue so that we can survive?
I think it's too far segmented to create this all of a sudden, hey, this is all what we do now.
But that would never happen.
Yeah.
Never happen.
I think the most likely situation and the most logical solution and probably the best solution is that everyone is just who you are. Everyone's broken up in tribes, and this is a country where all the tribes exist together.
So, could you foresee it? And I think this is a natural thing that's going to happen, not in our lifetime. Do you foresee America invariably splitting up into essentially Europe, where all these states end up becoming their own nation states of sorts? Because it's like
No.
the people, the Haitians in Chicago and Illinois, they just like eating cats and dogs, and I'm just not down with that. So I'm going to move to Georgia, where it's illegal to eat cats and dogs.
Is it illegal here?
I don't know. I don't know. Is it illegal to eat cats and dogs?
I don't know.
And pigeons and stuff. Like, you understand my point. Like, I think if what you're saying is come to pass is that everyone's going to be there in their little tribes, then invariably, because there's no common American glue, Texas is going to end up becoming its own country. Louisiana, Georgia, New Jersey, New York, California will end up becoming their own nation state within a union, like a European Union of sorts. I think that's a natural occurrence. I think that's what has to happen if we keep the tribalism as the way it is.
I think each state already is too large, too many people. Where one state is just too large to do it. Like California can't be its own nation state. It's too many people.
Yeah.
It's too many groups. It's too many different cities, too many different microcosms all over the place. I think that in itself is too large.
Yeah.
So I think the most likely situation, again, is that we say it's okay for everyone to be tribal. And this is a country where all the tribes are able to get along.
The problem...
Trying to get everyone to get along and deny their tribalism is why this isn't working.
Right. The amount of constraints that are going to be put on trade, social, transportation, economics, right? It's going to be really rough in that future, because everyone's tribal and everyone has to come up with their own laws of the land, and frankly, you cannot create. See, I had a conversation with a brilliant consultant a decade and a half ago in New Jersey. We were consulting together. His name is Shiraz Shuridan. Brilliant man. He gets paid lots of money to help essentially decompose PMO PMO offices in large project management offices. He said something to me that I'll never forget. We were sitting at a bar. We were talking about organizational change and how hard it is to make organizational change stick because it's a complex system. And if you change something here in an organization, then you have downstream implications and effects and out causes and the rest of the organization down here. And we were kind of going over this and struggling through this, and I'll never forget what he said. He said the reason why his purpose in life is to decompose project management offices in large companies he said this. He said, Peter, the problem with a project management office is you're trying to standardize policies, procedures, methods, frameworks across a variable system. And I looked at him and I said, that makes sense. And then he said this, and I'll never forget it. He said, the problem with that is it's trying to standardize a dog, a rat, a cat, a giraffe, a hippo, and a human to all run the mile at the same time. It's not possible. And so what he does is instead of trying to standardize processes across a variable system, he allows each business unit to create their own working agreements and learn how to trade. Because when you standardize across, he said this, and the two F's, I got to say this. He said, when you try to standardize across a human system of variable actors, some will flourish, most will fail. I'll never forget that conversation, because that conversation is exactly the hodgepodge, melting pot that America is that we're trying to standardize policies, laws, right, across a variable system of tribes in which these tribes are so different from each other that you cannot standardize a policy, right? If you try to standardize everyone is required in America to eat pork, you're going to offend a lot of people because some of those tribes, you can eat pork, right? That's, an example.
Well, you can, you just don't.
Fair enough.
Delicious, by the way.
It is.
Bacon's the best. Come on.
Have you ever had bacon chocolate? Chocolate bacon?
That sounds good. I probably have.
Oh my God. Have you ever had chocolate bacon?
Chocolate covered bacon with like some crushed nuts on there.
These nuts.
Have you had it? Yeah. Dude, I could eat chocolate bacon forever. You never there's a place in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Next time we're up there, I forget what it's going to come to me later. The best chocolate bacon.
Can you just take bacon and dip it in chocolate?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It seems really simple. Like I don't have to go all the way to Tennessee
it's
to
so
eat
good.
it.
No.
Okay, it's just bacon and chocolate.
Yeah. Dude,
Okay.
these guys cook it. They deep fry it.
I mean,
and
you're
then
not gonna eat the bacon raw.
Dude, it's like an orgasm in your mouth.
Yeah. Thanks for watching the clip. If you want to see the full episode, click here. If you want to see more clips, click here.